Hello, everyone. I want to talk about something that is getting under my skin. And I'll give an example from a while ago. I remember when I was selling my crafts at an art festival, and beside me, a woman had set up her crafts, and she had a little girl with her who was probably about 6 years old. Sweet little girl. She was kind of doing her own thing. She was wearing a little dress, and she was just so sweet. And we kind of exchanged smiles, and it just. And this woman, throughout the course of the time I was set up next to her, filled me in on her daughter's medical diagnosis, which had to do with depression and bipolar, just a variety, ADHD, and what type of medication she was on. And she listed all of the issues she was having with her daughter. And I sat there kind of shocked. And at the end of the show, I said, "Ma'am, what I see with your daughter is a sweet little girl who was very pleasant to be around. And instead, you chose to share her personal information with me. And I'm really put off by that. And I'm hoping that you forego doing that in the future and just allow people to enjoy your daughter." And today, when it comes to hurt, a lot of parents, spouses, etc., are choosing to label their ex, their children, etc., with medical diagnosis because they've Googled it and their ex or their child has all of these traits, which means they have bipolar, personality disorder, schizophrenia, etc. And there's a lot of information out there. And I just want to say, number one, it is not my right, whether someone has a diagnosis or not via a medical professional, to share that person's information with other people. It is my right to share my own medical diagnosis with other people if I so choose to, or any other personal information about my life. But I'm seeing this more and more, and I'm really put off by it because people say, "Well, I have, a couple of kids, and one abuses me, and the other one yells at me, and one screams at me, and I see all the classic traits of XYZ." And if we look back at any family that someone way back when they had large families and maybe 8 children, one was off kilter, maybe 2 were off kilter, but there's been circumstances where there's been a family with 4 children and one ends up being a serial killer or committing heinous crimes. And so that's just the way it is, unfortunately. We are infallible human beings. And so even if 2 people come from the same parents, we're each going to have our own traits and personalities and make different choices regardless if we were raised in the same home or not. And so I'm going to beg individuals out there who have been sharing medical diagnosis with the world, whether it's if I understand, if I want to share information with a friend, or I want to talk with a friend, or I need advice, I can say, "I'm in a situation," and this is not the case with me, although I'm estranged from my daughters. They aren't in contact with me. What if I was in a situation where my children were abusive, or they were stealing from me, or abusing me, or, sorry, I just repeated myself, but they were living in my home rent-free and not taking care of business, or on drugs, drinking, wreaking havoc in the world. I can say, I'm going through a really tough time because my daughter is exhibiting these behaviors towards me and not treating me well, etc. But when I go a step further and say, I believe she must be bipolar, or she is schizophrenic, or anything along those lines, I just be very, very careful. Because if I were to do that, if I were to blast one of my daughters on social media, YouTube, etc., they can come back and sue me because whether it's true or not, it is not my diagnosis to share. There are HIPAA laws. Doctors aren't allowed to release patient information without a signed written authorization from said patient. And so we have to be very, very careful. And the one thing I want to propose is, how would you feel if you had a diagnosis and someone close to you shared that diagnosis with people that you didn't like, you didn't want to know, made it public, and you either didn't want it out there or it just made your life worse. So please consider that. Please stop throwing diagnosis around. And even if someone has a diagnosis, don't share it. It's not your information to share. You can stick to the facts at hand. This person hurt my feelings. They called me a name. They treated me this way. But let's stop labeling people. And that's all there is to it. I hope everyone has a great day, and we'll talk with you soon.